Welcome back to the Rollup TV, baby. It is Tuesday, September 30th, the last day before our Q4 mega rally. Welcome back to Rollup TV, your daily show for everything you need to know about crypto. There is so much to talk about. We're running a little bit behind. We got our first guest ready to come in. We've got 𝘗𝘗𝘕𝗏𝘗𝘕 of Fireblocks. He's going to come in and talk to us here first on today's show. Guys, welcome back to Rollup TV. Looking forward to having our premier payment show brought to you by Polygon, presented by Polygon, one of the leading payments chains in the crypto space. Today, we are going to be talking to 𝘗𝘗𝘕, VP of Payments at Fireblocks. Ran is a new friend of the show, his first time on the show. And so looking forward to having him up and talking about the all things Fireblocks, payments, cross-border, remittances, stable coins. Looking forward to having a good episode. So we got him in the back, ready to go. We're going to take a quick pause, guys. We're going to jump into Ren. Then we're going to jump into John from zkVerify, their mainnet. And then we're going to have some fun. I got some stuff that I want to talk about with you guys. So let's take a quick break here. And then we're going to flow right into the show with Ren. So I'll see you guys in a sec. Welcome back to Money Moves Fast, the premier live show for payments, RWA's tokenization. I am here today with 𝘗𝘗𝘕𝗏𝘗𝘗𝘕, the head of payments at Fireblocks, amongst other important roles in his career. This show is presented by Polygon, one of the leading chains in payments for crypto, battle-tested, fast, cheap, with a big upgrade coming soon. I know Fireblocks and Polygon are close friends as well. Ran, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on there.
Thanks, Andy. Love to be here. Love the energy. This is probably one of, I would say, my most viewed shows. So thank you for having me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Ran, it's your first time. It's good to meet you as well. I'm glad that you took the time. And yeah, man, just a quick, intro about how you got into your role. You have quite the background, and I think it'd be helpful just to get some context.
Yeah, no. So I'm basically here because I've got sucked into this world about 10 years ago, into, I will say, the world of crypto by 𝘗𝘳𝘺𝘗𝑚's co-founder and CEO. He was the one that told me to buy my first Bitcoin before I knew what it was, and
That's cool.
I fell in love into this. And before this, I was in finance. I actually took one of my companies public before I fell in love into finance, but this was obviously different. So I started a company that was doing payments over blockchain. That was 2017. You could basically tell a taxi driver you're doing Bitcoin. He will give you money over right in there. And that was the easy part. But then obviously crypto winter, some other stormy weathers. And at the end of the day, we were able, I think, to create some really cool tech around payments, and got acquired by Fireblocks about 4 years ago. Wow. Ever since, I've been leading the payments and network divisions at Fireblocks, which has been nothing short of amazing, obviously, because the last 4 years, I think that, crypto and digital assets have been payments, right? Especially this year with stablecoins, where stablecoins are pretending to solve world hunger as well, right? So it's been a great journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I think the entrepreneur to the head of a branch is a bit of a different transition, but it sounds like it was fruitful, and it sounds like you guys have built some really cool stuff, back in the day. So Fireblocks has had a very interesting journey, right? If you think back to 21 and 2019 kind of cycle, Fireblocks was the enterprise kind of network category that was kind of hot in the 2018 bear, when security tokens were kind of a thing and people were trying to figure that out, and custody was a big thing. Then Fireblocks kind of went back under the radar a bit. I feel like with the L1 cycle of 21, 22, 23, everyone was kind of gung-ho about all these other kind of crypto apps, DeFi. Now Fireblocks is right back in the center of attention. People are teasing an IPO. You guys are absolutely crushing it on the revenue side in terms of your custody business as well as your other offerings. And so it's kind of been an ebb and a flow for the last eight-ish years of Fireblocks. And recently you have just launched what you guys are calling the Swift for Stablecoins Network. So would love to hear about this, and really just would love to hear about Fireblocks' thesis as a whole for the payments kind of space in crypto, and kind of like generally how you're thinking about this space as it's evolved.
All right, an easy question then. Okay, fine. So let's break it down, I guess. So, first of all, Fireblocks, I guess, consider itself first and foremost as, an infrastructure for this world, right? So if you're a payments company out there, or, a fintech like Revolut or Nubank, or like I said, a payments company like WorldPay or Visa, whatever, and you want to build on this rail that's called blockchain. And again, our view is this is another payments rail, right? There's ACH, there's wires, there's faster payment rails out there. Blockchain is another payments rail. And if you are in the business of moving money, that's a rail you need to get connected to. Same way as I would tell you, if you're a bank, you need to connect to, the Fed, or you need to connect to Swift, whatever. So first of all, that's our thesis. And our thesis is that over time, all of, obviously, the payment companies, but all of the fintechs, and eventually all of the businesses, by all these layers that will be enabled, every business in the world will use this tech. And again, I would say that my personal thesis is, this is very similar to what we have in, communications, right? Like, we're still having a phone call. I can call you, Andy, from my iPhone, but I could have called you also like 100 and something years ago, when Graham Bell invented the phone. But now we have better infrastructure. I can also text you. I can call you with, like video. I can send you very stupid memes on iMessage. I can do a lot of stuff that I couldn't, but I can do that because of infrastructure. We could just do more things. This is an infrastructure upgrade. So I guess that's like part of your question was, what's our thesis? Specifically about the network, the problem with a lot of these companies that are coming into our space, especially in the last 12 to 18 months, where there's a large, very big momentum due to regulation and other stuff, and more incumbents are coming in, more large payment companies, banks are coming in, right? We've probably been talking to more than 200 banks over the last 6 months that are coming in.
And they all want to launch stable coins, don't they?
Well, we tell them that they shouldn't, right? Like, and this really bums up people. Like, the first question is, what's a stable coin? The second question is, okay, should we issue a stable coin? But no, then they actually form a good strategy, I hope. That the thing is that a lot of these companies are coming in, and they now want to use stable coins and send a payment to Mexico and send a payment to Africa, and they have no idea who to work over there. And because Fireblocks, as you said, has been, we've sort of been in the right place in the right time with the right tech. And 70% of the world's institutions runs on Fireblocks. We run 15% of all the blockchain transactions globally. This year will be about $5 trillion. So we run a lot of the infrastructure of these off-ramps in Mexico, in Singapore, in Brazil, and whatever. And what we really did is like bring all of our great partners and clients together into this one network, and tell every client that comes in, hey, you want to now use this magic that called stablecoins to move money faster? Great. Here's a catalog of everyone in the world in 100 countries you can actually use and send money through. So that's the idea of the network. And again, the idea is that it's open, like if by the way, if Swift wants to connect to the network, come into the network, right?
And when you say network, we're not thinking like consensus-based node architecture here, like a blockchain. We're talking like a more distributed ledger kind of network, or a kind of more of like a database network. Just like, what exactly does network mean in this context?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, Handy, because everyone right now is either issuing a stable coin or a layer one.
Yes, right? or both, a stable coin layer one. We call it
exactly, which is exactly what we need, more layer ones. But no, it's neither of that. It's basically allowing Fireblocks to, because all of these people run on Fireblocks, then from within your, workspace, within your API, whatever, you could access all of them programmatically over any blockchain, whatever you want, whatever coin you want to move through that. But because they're all on the Fireblocks network, there's a basic trust element and a basic way to communicate and move messages around and really create these payment flows end to end, right? So no, it's not a blockchain. No, it's not a protocol. No, it's not DeFi. it's just a simple network. You can, in a way mimics how Visa connects between different merchants and acquirers and whatnot.
Yep. Makes sense. So on this kind of note around people wanting to launch a stable coin and people wanting to launch L1s, it does kind of seem like Fireblocks becomes an important, almost like middleware or part of the infrastructure stack for a lot of them. But also I think there's a point to be made with regards to like just general competition. And so like Cloudflare, for example, just announced, their CEO comes out and says, look, there's a net dollar stablecoin for agentic web payments coming out. Like this is a thing that we're going to be pushing. Agents are going to be interacting with each other in the wild using stablecoin based payments. Like this is there's no credit card. There's no, 3-digit code on the back of their card. There's no expiration date. You don't have to KYC. You can just use an agentic wallet or agentic, account on chain. So I'm curious if you see, in this example, like Cloudflare's, stablecoin or other big tech stablecoins as a threat to what Fireblocks is trying to do, or do you see this as an opportunity for you guys to grow?
No, I think, first of all, I think that's awesome that these companies are coming in and, again, whether they're issuing, as we just laughed about, a stablecoin or a layer one, or if they're issuing AI agentic SDKs to do payments with stablecoins, I think all of that is great. And I think that, we're using Cloudflare and at Fireblocks. I'm sure if Cloudflare scales and needs to issue 1 billion wallets like what we do for a living, they'll probably go to a company, either Fireblocks or someone else, that's their main business. That said, that just the fact that they're issued that stablecoin and, that machine to machine, AI to AI, agent to agent payment is probably going to be something we're going to see a lot of, right? Like people are now building these MCP servers. Yep. And I don't know if you got to cover this in the show already, but like this easy way for AI to communicate with your website or with your app, whatever. A lot of people are writing those things. These are called MCP servers, right? So there's really no great way to monetize those or to make a living if you've built a really good agent or a really good MCP server. But now with these payment SDKs that are coming out, this could all change. And I think this will also roll out to Fireblocks' world in a way, because there'll just be a lot more wallets, a lot more assets to move securely, and a lot more, let's call that, endpoints to connect on a network that is secured, which again talks to what we believe and what we do, right? And believe it or not, we're spending $40 million a year just on security. And we have 50 people on the payroll that are either, our hackers or other security DevSecOps people. So this is like, obviously, this is not a hobby, moving money securely. So I'm sure that I'm very happy this is happening. I'm sure we'll find ourselves part of that mix eventually.
Yeah, cool. No, I mean, I think that is kind of like one element of what's happening is more of this commercial enterprise entry into the stablecoin and payments ecosystem from a lot of large players, as we already kind of alluded to and discussed. And then you've got like the government entry as well. You've got like World Liberty Fi, USD1. I think recently there was 9 major European banks forming a euro-backed stablecoin consortium, right? And thinking about ways. So I think like there's demand coming from both commercial and government level. I'm curious from the government level perspective, whether it be this European bank news or just generally the way that, 𝘭𝘆 left the, Digital Assets Committee and joined USAT. So like there's just this government fueled demand happening as well, aligning with Secretary Bessent's $3 trillion of stablecoin supply by 2028. When it comes to the government creating demand for payments and for transactions on blockchains, how does how does Fireblocks capture that? Like, how do you make that, regulated demand something that comes to Fireblocks?
Wow. Andy, how do you think of all these texts? Like, I've seen the write-up before the show. It contained 10% of what you just said. Like, is your brain connected to Twitter directly to a prompt generator?
Dude, we do this a lot. I'm actually trying to make my questions shorter.
That is
keep them, nice.
That is crazy. Concise. That's a lot of knowledge in one question. Look, I mean, so first of all, let's talk about the bank thing, right? Banks are obviously not a big fan of stablecoins. I don't think it would shock anyone, because as a business, obviously a stablecoin is not good for a bank. They cannot hold your money one-for-one as a reserve, because that prevents them from rehypothecating it and making money on loans and interest, which is fair. That's their business model. But they have to play this game right now. They have to play this game because, as I said before, they have to be connected to this payments rail. So right now with stablecoins, I think that will evolve over time, by the way. I think that, what is that we're using today, this dollar pegged asset, I think it will change in nature, maybe to a tokenized deposit, maybe to something else, whatever. Now, obviously, what everyone is wondering, and you and me are sort of joking about, is why is no one putting an emphasis on interoperability? Right. And then comes this consortium of banks and says, hey, you know what? Like, we're 9 banks. We've created this Euro coin that's interoperable between us, at least, which I think is great. Yep. And I think that over time, what we'll see is probably more coins become interoperable. Our way to move that is obviously, as we provide the infrastructure to a lot of those, we're telling them, listen, here's your chance, because you guys are all running on the same infrastructure. Yeah. Just build this interoperable from inception, which a lot of them do. So that's like our also, in a way, push towards that path, which I hope more will see. But what I think is sort of happening right now is, the banks are really experimenting with stablecoins in a way. It will evolve probably within a year or two to something they can actually use in a business model. And then at some point where the banks have tested this enough, it will probably reach the place where, we all thought it will already be there, but like the governments themselves, right? And what we've seen up until now, and, governments are not, the US government has been holding Bitcoin since 2013, yep. Probably even yep. before. Like, there's people in the government, they know what they're doing with digital assets. And up until now, they've been using tools, right? They've been using companies, like us. They've been using Chainalysis. I think that was very public, right? So I think as this, momentum will continue from the payment companies to the fintechs to the banks, later on to the government entities, then I think all of the people who are now providing these type of services, like Fireblocks, like Chainalysis of the world, will probably grow to be companies who serve governments, just like Amazon, by the way, grew to have a government cloud, right? And by the way, this is why, I'm sorry to say this, like, I'm not trying to shamelessly promote Fireblocks. I'm just saying this is why I'm excited to work at Fireblocks, because if the world continues on this trend, then you will have probably 100x more subscribers, and Fireblocks will probably have 100x more clients. And which means we're like 1% of the company we could be a few years from now, which is why I get up in the morning. So
it's exciting.
I hope that answered all of your questions.
Yeah. Okay. And so, all right. So that is like unpacking why there actually is a need for essentially this payments network that you're building, because when you look at all these stable coins or these, types of tokenized assets that people are trying to issue, we've already seen them go to interoperability providers like Chainlink, Wormhole, et cetera, and be like, okay, we want to have the interoperability within the blockchain ecosystem. But what Fireblocks can essentially provide is what I would consider the interoperability for everything outside of that. So bank-to-bank communication, on and off ramps, last mile, exiting into local currencies and into local, commercial banks. Maybe you could just a bit further unpack the core kind of service that Fireblocks network brings? Because you guys are doing about $200 billion right now in stablecoin flows per month. So I'm kind of curious, like, is that like I'm trading on an exchange and then you guys are settling that, or I'm sending that from Peru to Bolivia? Like, you know, maybe kind of explain a bit of exactly what the core service is and who that target market is. And then we can start to think about like, and understand who's using and what's powering this, you know, current monthly flow.
Yeah. So powerful question. So let's look at that $200 billion a month of stable coins, right? Yeah. So this year probably we'll end up processing, I want to say something like $2.7 trillion of stable coins. Let's take an example of 200 billion. 50% of that is attributed to trading, and about 50% of that is attributed to payments. So when I say trading, I mean, you know, exchanges run on Fireblocks, OTC desks run on Fireblocks, whatever, hedge funds. That's all goes to that bucket. The other 50% are real payment companies, you know, the like WorldPay, like Visa, like, you know, Bridge, you know, it's powering Stripe, like those type of companies, but also the B2B companies like OpenPay and Zodia Markets and Conduit. And let's take one of those companies and really talk about a use case that will help also understand the narrative of the network, right? So let's say we have, I think Conduit is a great example, right? So Conduit is this company that helps importers and exporters pay large amounts of dollars, really, for containers they're importing to Brazil, for example. So they'll be in Brazil, they'll get, you know, Brazilian real from someone, they'll convert it to a stable coin. Now they're thinking, I want to work with someone in Singapore. I do not know anyone in Singapore. I do not speak the local language. I do not know what's going on there. But if I go to the Fireblocks network, I see there's like 2 providers that work in Singapore. Here's the currencies they work at. Here's what I need to do to open an account. I click, I open an account, and then I connect it to my Fireblocks world, and I just send that that new provider, let's say Zodia Markets that operate in Singapore, I send them the stable coin. They then convert that back to Sing dollars and send it to whoever I ask them, right? So I can be a business in one country and develop my payment flows, my off-ramps or my on-ramps in different countries without traveling there, just because of the Fireblocks network. I can be introduced to those businesses and integrate with them with one click, right? So that's the magic of that network. And I can, when I do business with them, I get all my reconciliation data normalized because it's all on the same platform. I get all my trading data. I get whatever just from the same platform I use for my daily treasury management. So that's the concept of the network.
And would you say like that B2B kind of cross-border payment flow is where is driving a lot of the demand growth?
So it's driving 40% probably of the volume. Another something like 25% is payouts to gig economy employees, creator. That has been, by the way, the largest growing segment within.
Okay. Is that like Uber and like Grab and that type of stuff, or?
So I mean, I know Grab does that, but I'm not aware of Uber. But you'd be surprised. It's actually a lot of these businesses like Scale AI that have like 10,000 payments they need to pay. They use Bridge to do that. Bridge uses Fireblocks. Boom, you get like hundreds of thousands of payments, right? So it's a lot of those type of companies, a lot of marketplaces, a lot of actually payroll companies starting to get on this. And I think the wave I'm seeing right now, and I think you'll see it over the next 3 months, I would say that this last quarter or next 6 months would be the remittance companies. So you've already seen Remitly making announcements, MoneyGram that has done like wallets with CrossMint. I think the remittance companies are getting on this train, and you'll probably see a lot of them coming in. And that's like $1 trillion market. So that's going to be interesting.
That's like Western Union is using stable coins instead of whatever they're currently using at scale in the future type of thing.
Yeah.
That's huge. Okay, cool. One question about that though. When I am sending a stable coin from, let's call it Brazil to Miami. My cousins are in Miami. I'm in Brazil. Let's say this. And I'm a first-time user, and I'm sending a stablecoin to like an OX address or like a name in an account. I don't really, I don't understand that this is an unreversible or non-reversible transaction. Like maybe it's my first time. I'm curious, like Circle's been hinting at exploring reversible USDC transactions. I'm curious if you think like chargebacks or, you know, reconciliations or pullbacks from payments for blockchain or for in these kind of like fintechy apps is going to make a big, you know, comeback or a big entrance into the scene. To me, it seems logical, but I could also see it being like, no, we don't need that. We can just get it right the first time. And, you know, because when I go to Venmo somebody, there's no like pullback option. Sure, on PayPal, if you do a payment for services or goods, you could do a chargeback process. Venmo, maybe you could, but it feels permanent in today's world already. So maybe consumers are used to that. I don't know. Curious your perspective.
Well, I think, you know, I think here's like an uncomfortable truth, right? So the reason that fiat works and most payments are done on fiat still and not on digital assets is because there's trust in that closed loop ecosystem. And banks, you know, whether you like banks or not, you like Swift or not, it doesn't matter. They have a way to communicate and say, hey, I'm going to send you money. Here's the one who's sending you this. Do you want to receive it on this, you know, to this recipient? They do their own checks, whatever. Eventually they say yes. You feel like it's taking a century, maybe sometimes, but you know, it's safe. There's even like a way to reverse that if you need to, right? And when you do commerce, which is not probably the same as P2P, right? As you say, Venmo, you send it, it's done. You send to your cousin, it's done, right? Talk to your cousin. But if you pay a store, you do expect as a consumer, like this is why we've created consumer protection. So I really think that actually bringing those, you know, schemes and let's call that even behavioral protocols into a blockchain makes perfect sense because we want, I mean, you can say that banks are horrible, fine. But I'm not saying you're saying it, but like people can say that, but we want banks to run on stablecoins as well, or some sort of digital asset. So we'll be able to move money 24/7. If we want that, we need to give this industry the tools to implement that and still have the precautions they need to operate. And this time, because they're using programmatic money and programmatic maybe forms of identity, then maybe that whole process where a bank talks to one another and asks questions about the identity of the sender or the receiver, maybe this time it can take like 3 minutes instead of 2 days because we've given them the tools. So I think part of this is giving them the tools. So I'm actually all for it. I don't get invited to crypto parties, but you know. I can't hear you.
Oh, so, oops, sorry. I just had it, was edited out. So it's almost like how Ethereum came on and took the idea of Bitcoin, and kind of made it programmable. We're basically looking at the payments landscape of stable coins and payments as they exist in like any blockchain today, and almost being like, okay, here's the tools that we have, presenting this to, you know, the parties interested, and then maybe thinking about like a programmable refund capability or a programmable verification of a sender and a recipient, rather than like doing like a chargebacks. So it's like creating that same level of interoperability that you would expect from Swift, but just doing it in like blockchain infrastructure, to create this kind of like interoperable functionality. Yeah,
this is like, you know, Visa and MasterCard have their own rule book of how you can get, you know, a refund, right? Swift has their own rule book. Pix, by the way, has one as well as Pay, as well as everyone. This is how payment systems need to work because sometimes people make mistakes. It's fine. The fact we're introducing this to the blockchain doesn't mean that we're destroying blockchains. We can still have distributed ways to make decisions that prevent centralization if we want to, right? But it doesn't mean that we don't need to provide the right tools to build a reliable system.
Yeah,
that's my point.
So we're deeply in this neobank meta, is what I'm going to call it today, which is I'm a crypto company. I create a phone app. I allow people to earn yield on stables. I allow people to send stables and do some form of lending in the app, give cash back on a card, have 1/10 of the margins of a traditional bank, or if you look at it the other way, 90% better, 24/7 settlement, stable coins with instant transactions and free payments. And we're putting this on an easy ass app. You're just going to open it every day and you're not going to use your bank account anymore. And you can use the card to spend. And you just got to be topping up your Bitcoin or your ETH and then borrow against it, get that money to spend. You don't have to sell your crypto. And all of a sudden, you're just completely outside of having a full credit card. You're pretty much there. This is a business that could explode. What's your read on this?
So first of all, that sounds like WireX, Coca, Dollar App, Cheaper Cash, Cinco, like a lot of apps that are trying to make in a way Revolut, right?
Yeah,
that is trying to do this. The reality is, and this is interesting, there was the first wave of fintechs that obviously were built on top of banks, but they gave you a better interface to that, what we all experience as, like a horrible experience, right? And then these fintechs are now sort of being disrupted by this, as you're calling it, the neo wave of fintechs, right? Neo fintechs, yeah. Because these fintechs, have been around for like 10 to 15 years. So if they've built things a certain way with licensing on banks as they were required, now they need to make this infrastructure jump into the next generation. Some are going to make it, some are not. So some fintechs will evolve probably into these neo fintechs. I think Revolut has done that jump of creating their own exchange eventually, right? And a lot of those things, Robinhood, you can say with tokenizing stocks, they definitely made that jump, and some probably won't, right?
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting play to see what's happening there.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be hard for some of them to adjust to the real-time nature of blockchain and just the technical shift. But the advantage is, I think of like 𝘱𝑒RFi or Plasma with their Plasma One thing that they've recently announced, or even, some of the work that, you could see on Stripe's Tempo chain or, these types of things. And sure, some, like Robinhood or Revolut might take a while to figure it all out, but they have a 250 million customers ready to use anything at any given moment on that day. Whereas Plasma, 𝘱𝑒RFi are looking over their shoulder at all right, we got 250 rich crypto degens who are going to spend some money because they're rich. Do we even need to target that base is another interesting question, actually.
Yeah, I have to ask you a question. Do you think, just based on what you said, do you think that when Tempo comes out, 6 months after, do you think that companies who are not Stripe's customers, what do you think would be the usage? Would other payment companies adopt this as well? That's what I'm wondering recently.
Yeah, or what, or even if it's better, would their incentives be aligned in such a way that it would make it would harm them to even use it, right? And so I think if they're seeing Stripe as a direct competitor to what they're doing, which they likely would, then I would think that they wouldn't use it. And then I think that they would just probably fork it or adopt it or adopt a similar version of it. It's hard to see Stripe coming out with a bang on this and then other payment companies just being like, we're going to concede because Stripe is the best blockchain ever. Tempo is the best L1. We're just going to use Tempo. I just feel like, insert payment company here would just be like, okay, well, if they can do it, we'll just do it. So
yeah, no, it's interesting because in a way, Stripe isn't Tempo, Tempo isn't Stripe, but because it felt like, there were obviously a big part of the announcement, it felt like it is, but maybe Tempo will end up being this really amazing chain. And yes, Stripe is an investor, but maybe that's it. Maybe, by the way, we'll see more payment companies investing in Tempo, and that could be interesting. Maybe they'll create that. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm
trying to pull up this tweet from Mike Dudas about this. He said, it's kind of like a funny meme tweet, but it was something about bridge and privy. Basically, like here, Stripe buying bridge and privy for $1.5 billion total is going to look like Instagram level theft in a few years. Do you buy it, or cop or drop that? What do you think?
I agree 100%. Honestly, it's actually a really good comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a steal. It's just a matter of like, what kind of return could you expect on that? But I suppose if Tempo becomes one of the largest payments chains, then acquiring bridge and privy for $1.5 billion is going to look like pennies compared to their total Tempo token allocation or equity.
I mean, it's not just that. Like, if bridge is making, and I don't remember if they ever actually showed the numbers other than in certain events, but let's assume it's making $500 million, $500 million in EBITDA, or then if that move eventually allows them to be the first mover in stable coins, AI, agentic, which, by the way, go to every AI marketplace, there's a Stripe module there already, right? If they are able to capture that, just think about what happened in AI recently in the last 18 months, and what's the revenue of OpenAI? What's the revenue of Anthropic, right? If you think about that, if those on top of those platforms, there'll be even more value created, which Stripe can actually connect to as a processor and put their chain on and use stablecoins to do that, because this whole AI world will run on stablecoins 100%, right? For sure. Then yeah, maybe that could be like another Stripe was actually created just by acquiring those two companies, right? Like a crypto-based Stripe was created. Anyway, I
want to drill down a bit on this 𝘗𝑠402 thing. We didn't have it necessarily prepped, but I'm just going to read you something. Basically, back in the 1990s, web architects reserved HTTP status code 402 for quote unquote payment required, but traditional payment systems like credit cards proved too slow and expensive for microtransactions and, insert blockchains. So Coinbase comes out in May saying 𝘗𝑠402 resurrects its dormant standard. It lets websites flag premium content during HTTP requests. When you or your AI agent hits paywalled content, the browser automatically handles a crypto micropayment and unlocks access instantly. No redirects, no logins. It's built for chains on Ethereum. 𝘗𝑠402 enables transactions as small as a fraction of a cent, transferring the web into a kind of pay per use marketplace. And then there's also kind of the ERC 8004, a universal standard for agents to discover services, identities, and transact. Each agent gets a blockchain passport, quote unquote, for reputational checks, and this should extend agent to agent P2P kind of usage. So that is what is happening, and it sounds like this is probably the preface for Cloudflare's announcement with stablecoins. Later, came about 3 months later. I just wanted to just flag that, make sure that the audience gets to understand that, and just give you a chance to kind of sound off on this. I know we touched on it a bit, but maybe just give us the fireworks or the Fireblocks roadmap for agentic payments and how you guys are thinking about integrating them.
So first of all, I have to respond about that, ACP 402 status codes thing that the Coinbase released. I think it was a really sad moment for me, because I was, these moments when you think, how the hell didn't I think of that? Like, that's really good.
It was obvious.
I was like looking at this and I'm like, I should have thought about that. Those status codes, a lot of people, anyway, that's good. So, I don't know if it will catch or not, but I was thinking to myself, that is something I can work with. And by the way, Brian Armstrong is in Israel next week. If I'll see him, I'll definitely tag him on this one. Yeah. But I thought to myself, that could work. The Cloudflare thing, then I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I started seeing more people sort of riffing on that. So I think that will that's good. That's a good start. The reality is, that's still not a solved problem. Just the fact that they, thought about this, which is really cool, still means that everyone needs to implement something to support it. Yes, they're using the HTTP protocol, which means like the network layer in a way is solved. How do you move the message? You still need to interpret the message, which has been the hard part in distributing these type of protocols. The way we're thinking, the other side of your question was how we're thinking about agentic payments. Well, the way we're sort of, we believe eventually, everyone would need to run a wallet. Our goal in a way is you can think about us like, I would say like the Intel of security, which is like, we have this microchip. How do we make it smaller, 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 and make it better, better, better? So how can we as Fireblocks make the wallets that we create, and we've created more than 1 billion of them, for our customers, how do we make them smaller so they could be agentic AI size, let's call them, but also more efficient so they could run even at a faster pace than what they're running right now, but still maintain the security and, in a way, the enterprise protection you expect when you use Fireblocks. Because if Microsoft, just as a thought experiment, will allow every Xbox developer or Xbox box to have like this micro wallet in the box, right? So they still expect some sort of enterprise governance and control over that, but they still want everyone to have a wallet. And those that's like millions, tens, hundreds of millions of people. So that's how we're thinking about how we're making our technology faster, better for that. And we have released like our own MCP server, obviously SDKs to handle like AI. But I feel like as an industry of crypto and AI, two buzzwords you should not be saying in the same sentence, but we're still really at the early days of exploring how the interfaces even look like. So I think a year from now, I'll be smarter. Today, I can tell you, I think everyone's guessing, and we're trying to guess as well.
Yeah. I got to ask you, Goldie, before we go, rumors on the street is that Fireblocks has a big IPO coming after posting just absolutely crushing revenue numbers quarter over quarter. It's going to be a huge year for the guys over there. Got a big smile on your face.
Yeah, no, I wish. I mean, first of all, I vote for whoever is has those rumors, and please talk to me. I have equity, but I think I think this wave that's happening right now, I think we're still trying to build Fireblocks. As I told you, this business could be like 100x bigger. We're still building. Are we ready today to go public? Probably not. Will we ever be public? I don't know. That's up to the market probably eventually.
I think so. Buddy.
But yeah, it's a good time to go public. I wish every company going public right now, best of luck.
Yeah. Goldie, man, I appreciate your time. Thanks for the segment. It's been a good one. And I guess just last thing, just to close you out, I didn't really get to mention much about any of the work that you're doing with Polygon, but they obviously hooked us up on the appearance today. Maybe you can just give us a little tease as to what you guys are doing together.
Yeah. So first of all, Polygon is one of those chains that we've been partnering with very early on. The reason behind this is that they're not just thinking about, how can we support the latest fad or whatever that is. They've been building payment related protocols for the last, I think, 4 years. And what we've been working with Polygon on is mainly how are we bringing more payments businesses online? What does it take behind the scenes at the protocol level to do it, at the liquidity level? And they've just been a great partners for, actually bringing more businesses on chain probably than a lot of other blockchains. So super helpful in that. Thank you, by the way, Polygon, if you're listening.
Yeah, thanks, Goldie, man. I appreciate your time. Very insightful, and I enjoyed it. I feel like I learned quite a bit of just about generally how this payments, kind of landscape is actually panning out. It's unsexy. It's really not that appealing to people, but it's really the most important thing that's happening in crypto right now. So it's funny how these paradoxes of industry maturation happen, and everyone's focused on whatever like the latest freaking plasma meme coin is, or whatever the yield farm is, or the NFT hyperliquid drop. And it's like, no, we're actually doing cross-border remittances at scale right now. Like, it's happening. So
yeah, we're actually changing. We are actually changing the world, and you didn't think you'll hear that in crypto. So,
exactly.
So yeah, thank you for having me, Andy. This was great.
All righty, man. Thank you. Man, Rand is just an incredibly well-spoken guy. He does a great job. And yeah, we're gonna roll out of the Money Moves Fast episode today. Really enjoyed that. We're gonna flip back. Shout out to Polygon. Shout out to the team there leading payments. Guys, we have a special guest coming up next. We've got 𝗗𝗓𝗦𝗧𝗏 of zkVerify. They have their mainnet today. So stoked on that. And yeah, should be a good segment. I'm gonna check out what the zkVerify chart is looking like. I think that mainnet's already been out, but yeah, ready to get John up whenever he's ready. And yeah, let's have a look. Here we go. Boom, big launch for the boys, trading at 173 full FDV. Looks like we got the VFY. Okay, all right. Interesting token ticker choice and other exchanges. So yeah, we're gonna get John up. Hello, welcome on.
Thank you, Andy. Breaking up a little bit for me, but thank you for having me on. How are you?
Oh, it is breaking up. I think it should be all right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you kind of like really slow.
Johnny boy. Okay. Is it still pretty bad?
I think now we're good.
Is it still bad or no?
Good.
There we go. John, happy mainnet day. Congratulations, man. How you feeling? Give us some reflections. Talk to us about how you're feeling on this fine Tuesday morning.
I feel really, really, really good. I kind of, been getting a little bit nervous going into today, yesterday and the day before, but I think we did a pretty good job. We're live. We're obviously, trading. You were just talking about the numbers. We've done I won't talk about the price, but we've done a crazy amount of volume, which is super exciting. We've got DEX listings. We've got some pretty big centralized exchange listings. We have probably most importantly, two more important things. We have a ton of really great validator partners securing our network for us that we're really excited. We'll have announcements coming out over the next few days. And then the most important thing is we do have a bunch of proofs hitting mainnet. We've been tracking everything on testnet so far. We had hit over 5 million proofs verified earlier in the week. And, now we're seeing them on mainnet, and it's super, super cool and super, super exciting to be here talking about it now.
Well, I'm loving the hat, man. Congratulations, man. How's the team feeling? What's the last 48 hours been like for you guys?
Honestly, team is feeling great. It's been really, really cool to see it. There's a bunch of videos on social media that I would encourage people to check out under zkV protocol. So the team is super amped. I think they did a toast when we launched at 8 a.m. Eastern time. I think it was like 2 p.m. Milan time, which is where they're all at. So yeah, they're all amped, and the last 48 hours, honestly, were not really bad at all, which I think goes to tell you like kind of how prepared I think we all were. Everything was more or less handled. So I was, I was talking to some guys yesterday internally, and I was like, guys, this is like kind of like nothing left to do. We just have to wait for people to flip the switch tomorrow. It's kind of amazing. So it's been a really, really cool experience for the last 48 hours or so.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, we were talking just maybe a couple of weeks back into late summer there, or midsummer, and you were doing a lot of these kind of like vibe coding experiments with ZK, which I think it really got people excited about ZK, because oftentimes we kind of get overwhelmed by the technical terminology and explanations of all of what ZK is and can do. But then when somebody shows you the practical nature of the technology in front of your face in a demo, it's pretty easy to kind of be like, oh, this is clearly the like the application. Talk to us maybe a bit about some of these practical apps that you were able to build out to an MVP form, and kind of, what zkVerify really enables for these types of new applications?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were running and currently still are running this kind of incentivized testnet program called Proof Points. And if you enter, our website for that, you'll see kind of a lot of different types of games that are all ZK enabled. So the real idea that we were trying to kind of get to here was we wanted people to actively participate in these games and see how zero knowledge was employed. So we have, some puzzle games like Wordle that are, what you kind of are proving in the Wordle game is that the server hasn't cheated and hasn't like changed the word out from under your feet. So every time you guess and you get their responses, like whether it's, you have the right letter in the right place or you have the right letter but in the wrong place, it guarantees that the server is still, evaluating your guesses against the same word without actually revealing the word to you. So you get cryptographic proof that that's actually the case. I took a little bit of a different approach because I am really big into gambling, and I built some gambling games. So I built a slot machine, which was super easy, super straightforward. It wasn't easy, but I did it all, with the help of AI, where I'm actually guaranteeing to the user that the reals that actually land on, whatever the symbols are generated using, a fairly generated random number. And sort of the impetus for this is every time I travel, to the northeast, like to Boston or wherever, I typically play slots on my phone, which is a really stupid move. I don't recommend that to anybody, but I typically, it feels like I always win at first, and then slowly, like I lose all my winnings and then half of my bankroll. And I'm like, is the server cheating me here? They know they got me. They know that I won. They know that I have money to play with. They know that I'm gonna keep playing. So I really wanted to kind of create a provably fair version of slots, and that was sort of the backbone for that particular game. But then I also took it one step further and built out a blackjack game where the proof, the zero knowledge proof, is guaranteeing that you're playing with a full and like fully randomized deck of cards, which I think is actually really cool. And again, a good way of demonstrating that I can prove to you that you're dealing with a full deck of cards that's fully randomized without actually showing you the full deck in the order, which would, obviously ruin the game for the house at least.
Yeah, exactly. So your ZK endeavors are centered around, one could call it anger at the house for always winning, knowing that there's some rigging going on. But, if we extrapolate this, small kind of like microcosm, even though gambling and betting is a massive market, there is real practical need for things like chess, for online poker tournaments, for online, even things like as prediction markets have been growing and growing, like you want to have some concrete knowledge that when you're putting your money on the line for something, that the system is operating in a fair capacity. And I think that like level of transparency around the verifiability of the fairness, anybody can verify the fairness of a given outcome given a set of rules, is essentially like the big breakthrough here. And then, maybe we could talk about how this operates more at scale with like stablecoins, or like with, L2s, or with, payments and tokenization and kind of like larger trends, or even like AI, right? Like the entire AI space. Maybe I'm curious, you had this kind of microcosm of experimentation that has proven well. And, you've mentioned that there's now proofs being, there's a demand for proof verification on the network already. Where's that demand coming from? And maybe you could talk to us a bit about how you see the kind of application of this technology in some of those sectors that I mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. We've obviously already talked about the sort of gambling use case, and like the sort of key is like when there's money on the line, whether it's in a peer-to-peer or like from a prediction market standpoint, peer-to-peer, or in a like situation where you're dealing with the house, you obviously want to know that you're getting treated fairly and that you're playing on a level playing field. And when you're playing against the house, at least you're guaranteed to not be on a level playing field. So you want to at least know like what you're up against, right? And my argument in this case has been like, if I can, guarantee fairness and I can keep people playing these games longer, they have more money that they're churning over and over and over again, right? They're going to continuously lose money over time, but maybe you can, charge a little bit less because maybe you have to prove to fewer people that, like auditors or for example, that you're actually, administering a fair game. And if you can keep people around longer, you can sort of keep people buying more drinks or concert tickets or whatever the case is, talking from the perspective of the casino. And I think you can increase revenue that way. So that's sort of the gambling use case. I think in AI, there's a tremendous sort of situation that I think we're going to be confronted with soon, where you and I know each other, Andy, and if you gave me a work product and you said, here, John, like, take my word for it, like I did this work product the right way, given our relationship, I can sort of trust you, right? But the whole idea of zero knowledge proofs is removing the need for trust between two entities. So if you're dealing with a fully agentic world where you have, two different bots that are trying to communicate with one another and do business with one another, or whatever the case is, how does one bot guarantee that the other bot is doing their job in the way that they were supposed to be doing it? And this is where zero knowledge proofs sort of come in. I can guarantee that like this bot is actually operating the way that it was programmed to do, because I'm able to verify proof in a very, fast and efficient manner. And this is where zkVerify hopefully starts to see like sort of significant volumes. If you wanted to go into payments, like there's a whole use case around private payments, where I may want to pay a bunch of employees that work for me, and I want to do this on chain with stable coins or whatever the case is, but I don't want to reveal the addresses of my employees. Well, this is now the use case where the use case here is, private payments, where I can use zero knowledge proofs to essentially shield the amount of tokens that were paid to a particular person and what their address is, so I'm not exposing them on chain. Obviously, we need to do this in a compliant way, so there needs to be some sort of compliance aspect to it. But the zero knowledge proof component is really hiding, those details so that people aren't exposed on chain. There's certainly, a tremendous number of use cases in trading, all sort of related to, keeping maybe your strategy private, where I can guarantee or I can prove that, I have ownership over some funds and the funds belong to me when I want to withdraw them, but not reveal the strategy that I employed to actually get from, certain amount of funds in a certain wallet with a certain token distribution to another, which obviously allows, proprietary trading to happen on chain, where maybe, you or I can't copy what's being traded. So these are all sort of use cases for ZKPs, zero knowledge proofs. This is why we think we're so bullish on zkVerify, because all these proofs need to be verified somewhere. We think they all need to be verified on chain if there's going to be on-chain activity happening. And we're set up in the right way, we believe, to be able to handle that volume, which we hope explodes over the next, number of years.
Yeah, and so that the proofs are being verified on the zkVerify chain itself, which, if I understand correctly, is effectively a substrate-based chain that is an L1 with its own set of validators. Effectively, the reasoning here is the same reasoning why like the entire modular kind of concept exists, is you just have a specific chain, specific use case. It's going to help Ethereum scale. Ethereum obviously can't verify all these ZK proofs at scale for a cheap, fast cost right now. There's too many transactions going on. It just does not have the load capacity, if you will, to kind of manage that. And so basically the zkVerify L1 is able to then kind of be a hub for just proof verification. And so that specialization allows you to have this kind of edge in the market. Maybe you can talk to us a bit about the chain design. I think I mostly got it there, but talk to us about why you chose to build this chain in the way that you did, and why you are a strong kind of believer in this specialized or purpose-built kind of chain thesis.
Yeah. So I think what you said earlier, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It is a substrate-based chain, so it's based on the same kind of technology that Polkadot is based on, and that's important for the particular reason that we're in an industry, we're talking about an industry with zero knowledge proofs that is pretty old, actually. I think first zero knowledge proofs were thought up of in the 70s or 80s, if I recall correctly. But the technology is still at a point where it's like really, really rapidly advancing very, very quickly. And so what we've done, what we've seen, we built verifiers into this specialized blockchain that are can essentially verify, I think, 8 or so different types of proofs as of right now. We can expand to any number of verifiers that we'd like to. But particularly with a couple of the zkVMs like RISC-0, for example, which just did their token launch recently, they've been iterating through versions of their verifier and their prover code really rapidly, like almost bi-weekly, I think. And the point that I'm trying to make is we chose Substrate because it's very, very easy to deploy changes on chain without having to do hard forks, which require like a tremendous amount of coordination across a pretty vast array of stakeholders, including exchanges, validators. Anybody running a node essentially has to update their software. And, you know, I can't even count the number of stakeholders that we've had to deal with to set this chain up to start. But deploying changes are going to be very, very straightforward for us. So given the sort of all the innovation that's happening in the industry right now, we think from that perspective, we're very well positioned because we can rapidly upgrade the chain and accommodate, you know, technology needs of our users very, very rapidly. To talk to your specialization point, we've stripped out almost everything from the blockchain except for verification, staking, and governance functions. So instead of having to deal with, you know, like an EVM has to deal with just generic computation, anybody can deploy any kind of smart contract on chain that they want, and they have to compete with everybody else for resources. We've said, okay, we just want to do this one thing, and it's really 3 things, but the one big thing is proof verification. We want to do this one thing really, really, really well and dedicate all of our block space and all of our computational power toward it. That coupled with the fact that we've, you know, natively built these verifiers in the node infrastructure makes it hyper efficient for us to verify these proofs and do it at scale and very, very cheaply. If you contrast this to Ethereum, you have to have certain precompiles for some of these newer proof types, some EVMs that are deployed on, you know, that haven't, you know, added certain precompiles, can't even verify some of the proof types that we verify on zkVerify, or that we can verify on zkVerify. So I think we're really, really well positioned and are putting ourselves in the right position to be able to, you know, capture a lot of this demand as proof volume increases to accommodate all these use cases that we talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is where the space is trending, right? If you look at the payments chains that have been announced recently, the Plasmas, the Tempos, et cetera, it's stablecoin, it's payments chains. If you look at ZK, you've got verification chains. You're going to have pretty much like RWA or just like permission bank chains. You're going to have gambling kind of casino, kind of meme coin fund chains. You're going to have streaming chains that are just meant for streaming, and they'll be trying to dominate that. And so I just think like as the market goes into this more sophisticated fashion, you know, those focused on this general purpose outlook are going to struggle. Those with a specialized approach will win in the more immediate future, and then they will also be forced to evolve over time as well. You know, it's funny, it's kind of a loop here where you kind of start with a specific use case and you realize that you got to kind of build out the whole thing. Then you go back. So I could see multiple loops here happening for zkVerify as you guys evolve and try to think about, okay, we're doing, you know, this much proof verification. If we get, you know, if the ZK market is going to 10x over the next 5 years in terms of just total proofs being used on chain, well, here's how much, you know, revenue we could, you know, theoretically forecast. You know, okay, well, how do we kind of grow that even bigger? Is there another service that we need to offer on our chain, or is there another vertical? And so you kind of maybe could start where you are now and then end up evolving into multiple product verticals, which I'm sure you guys are thinking about. But I think generally, like, the trend is clear for ZK, and it's really just about capturing part of that pie and then figuring out a way to redistribute that in a sustainable fashion towards getting the token to do well. I mean, more or less. I mean, like that's what the market wants right now. I think the market's obsessed with buybacks right now. I think it's also obsessed with like over fixating on it. So I don't think that you need to like go too crazy on that front, but like the general trend is clear. And so, yeah, maybe you can just talk to us about how you're thinking about like the TAM here. Like, you know, how big could ZK get? Like, what is the wedge for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, the TAM, just to maybe put numbers to like kind of what I'm going to talk about here. I think at peak, right before launch, we were verifying about 350,000 proofs a day on our testnet. And, you know, people come out and say, oh, well, it's testnet, and oh, well, they're just fluffing the numbers. But the reality is we weren't fluffing the numbers at all. I mean, you could argue that the incentivized testnet is fluffing the numbers, but I think most of our volume was actually coming through partner proofs, and that's 300,000 a day. I don't know what that, you know, amounts to over the course of a year, almost 100 million maybe, right? If I do math the right way. And that's like pretty substantial volume given where the like industry is at in terms of adopting ZK tech overall, which it really, really hasn't done to a large extent. So I think like, you know, we're on a really good path right now. I think internally, I've seen some numbers externally that have envisioned like 90 billion proofs by 2030. I think if we, you know, were able to capture even a small percentage of that market, we'd be doing really well. But I think that number is probably underestimating the potential for ZKPs. We're kind of internally talking about a number around 1 trillion proofs or even more. If you think about all the places where you can insert zero knowledge into like your normal workflow, where when I log onto a website, I might want to hide my IP address, or I might want to prove to somebody that I own a particular number of tokens on one chain and, you know, have that translated to another chain. There's so many different places where you can insert these things. And so we're big believers that the volume is just going to erupt. If you look at sort of like some of the other trends, like I kind of look at zero knowledge development as like being broken into maybe 3 or 4 components. The first are like zkVMs. I think there's 20 or 30 out there, couple big ones, but 20 or 30 out there. These are the ways that you write these zero knowledge programs that actually generate a proof. Then you go down one step and there's these networks that we've seen a couple recently launched tokens, i.e. boundless and succinct, that are starting to pop up. There's maybe 5 or 10 of these. I think at last time that I looked, there's these proof aggregation networks. There's maybe 5, 6 of those that are big names. And then there's 3 or 4 verification dedicated networks. And so if you like look across this, you're seeing a tremendous amount of investment being put into this technology. You're seeing these big token launches, which, you know, have done tremendous amount of, they've added tremendous amount of value to the ZK space overall. I think it's really hard to kind of ignore and think that this thing isn't going to be really, really big. And, you know, we're at the bottom of that stack. So we're sort of thinking about how do we, you know, move up the stack and try to capture more volume. But it's really hard to think that there's not going to be billions and billions, if not trillions of proofs long term. And, you know, all those proofs are going to need verification. If they verify on zkVerify, which hopefully they do, that means, you know, fees paid in VFY token, which we just launched today. So that's, you know, I think pretty bullish for the revenue generated by our network. And, you know, if you pair that with, you're talking about buybacks, we're considering, you know, putting a governance proposal out to maybe burn some of the fees that we're generating from these tokens. We could be in a situation where we're actually, on our network at least, seeing deflationary tokenomics instead of inflationary tokenomics. So
yep,
a lot of cool stuff to come.
Very cool. Very cool. And I appreciate the kind of wide breadth explanation here of just how big this could really get. Because I think people think, I had 𝘗𝘳𝘺 from Electric Capital on earlier this week. You know, the guy kind of invented Google Maps, like was like one of the co-creators before, like, you know, it was like a whole thing. It was like, you know, you can check his pin tweet. And he says that humans aren't wired to think in exponentials. Like we don't understand exponential curves from a pure brain perspective. And so like when you think about ZK, it's going to be so obvious in hindsight when right now it's like we are literally doing the test pump for the test pump. Like we haven't even gotten to the test pump yet of what's about to happen. And it's hard to even wrap your head around that, because it literally means from where we are today, like 100x growth in like a short period of time in terms of usage of this technology. Now, obviously we could still be in the kind of like early phases of the S curve, which is like the beginning of the exponential growth for a while, which is why it fucks with people's heads, because like you could stay in like the flat zone for years. And then all of a sudden in a year or two, you go like 10x, 20x. So it's really just, and I think that that's pretty much, it's not guaranteed to happen to ZK, but it's pretty damn close in terms of, possibility.
I think what we're hoping for is that this mainnet launch and token launch is sort of the catalyst for maybe the test pump that you're talking about, right? Like we're showing people that, hey, maybe you were thinking about generating a proof. Maybe it was really hard for you to do that. So we're thinking around like, how do we maybe consolidate some of that development stack into a much simpler product on one side of things, but then on the other side of things, oh, it's expensive to verify these proofs. Like I have to charge my customers maybe $1 or $2 extra for doing what they're needing to do just to cover the gas costs of verifying these proofs. Well, now that cost has collapsed from maybe $1 on Ethereum, maybe 10 cents on some of these L2s to a fraction of a penny with zkVerify. And so we're hoping to be sort of the spark or the catalyst for that, trajectory to start to really, really take off on the exponential curve that you're mentioning.
Yeah. John, last thing for you, this is just the beginning. It's kind of like a new day one type of vibe where, it's been a long road to get here from Horizon side, and then now rolling out zkVerify. And I know that was a whole process that has, been an undertaking. And I think between you and I, you would have wanted to see this go live more like Q2, not, the day before Q4, but that's timelines for you in crypto and in development. What's next? What are you guys focused on to end Q4 strong? What is the main priority? And then what does the first half of 2026 look like for zkVerify?
Yeah, I was actually okay with the timeline. I think we actually maybe nailed the timing perfectly with this last day of Q3 launch. Seems like a lot of things are going in the right direction. We had, a couple of these ZK projects launch earlier in the month. I think that was really good for, continuing to hopefully grow the space a little bit. So not to correct you, but I'll correct you anyway. But yeah, rest of Q4 is really going to be around growing, zkVerify, growing the number of proofs that are verified on chain, really making sure that everything's kind of good to go, good to continue to scale. Like the big thing for us is scaling right now. We need to figure out how to, accommodate the trillion proofs that I was talking about, because we do expect to see, maybe not super short term, but short term, expect to see a lot more proofs being generated and needing verification. So I think a lot of our roadmap is really centered around that. We are working on an API-based product where we want people to send proofs much more easily to the network without having to set up a crypto wallet, kind of more like a SaaS product where we make it really easy for people to integrate ZK into their stack. And part of the idea with that product is maybe we want to vertically integrate some of these things that I was talking about, right? Like there's so many different technologies that we're asking people to use when they enter this ZK landscape that they already don't really know very much about. It's like, okay, then choose from 20 different ZK VMs, 5 different prover networks, 5 different aggregation networks, and 5 different, it's really confusing, right? On top of ZK already being hard to grasp from like a layperson's point of view. So we're thinking about how do we make that whole stack much easier to use. I don't want to spoil too much there because obviously we're on a live stream and everyone's listening, and I don't want to give it away, but we're putting some thought into that.
We're stoked.
We're putting some thought into that. It's really about growth from here. I keep telling everybody internally, like everyone's like, oh yeah, tomorrow's the day, we're done. And I'm like, no, it's just the beginning. Like we got to keep accelerating from here.
It is just the beginning.
Yeah. So anyway. That's
John, thank you for your time. Congratulations on the big launch today. Thanks for joining the show. Friend of the show, welcome on whenever, and appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Shout out to the zkVerify and Horizon Labs team. Great job, everyone.
Yeah, man. Definitely. All right, John. We'll see you soon, buddy.
Thanks, Andy. Great to be with you.
All right, buddy. Peace out.
All right.
Alrighty, guys. Bang, bang, bang. zkVerify mainnet is live. I feel like it's mainnet season. I mean, it's literally just raise season. It's freaking launch season. It's everything season right now, guys. So strap in. Let's get some music playing, Leo, in the back. Let's get the screen up. We're gonna scroll the timeline a bit. We're gonna check out what the latest is. I gotta talk about 𝘗𝘓𝗦𝗡 stuff. I gotta talk about the latest with the yield basis stuff that's just bonkers. So yeah, guys, we're gonna pull that up and just kind of rip through that a bit. Let's get some tunes playing in the back, get the vibes going, and yeah, we'll get this thing started here again. Give me a quick sec, y'all. Yeah, I mean, guys, bullish on zkVerify. I'm glad that they were able to get that thing out. We've been helping them for a while, so stoked to see that. Stoked to see that. This 𝘗𝘓𝗦𝗡 thing is where we're gonna start. This shit is just bonkers, absolutely bonkers, absolutely bonkers. Alrighty, so I'm gonna pull it up on my screen and then we're gonna rip through it. One sec, y'all. It's coming up. Let's get some vibes tunes going. Alrighty. All right, let's get this up and we're gonna scroll the feed, talk about the timeline. Alrighty, let's go. Let's pull her up. And yeah, we're gonna scroll the feed a bit and have a look at this 𝘗𝘓𝗦𝗡 announcement that was absolutely crazy. Here we go. Let's pull it up, Leah, and jump in there. Yeah, guys. So 𝘗𝘓𝗦𝗡 came out and said, "Look, I'm launching Flying Tulip, and I've raised $200 million. And yeah, like I've raised a $200 million seed round at $1 billion token valuation." The trippiest thing is that if you go on the website or like the Twitter account, it literally says no token. Like, you're telling me there's no token on this, but in this, you literally say 200 million at 100 billion or at $1 billion token valuation. So what I would like to understand and to read to you guys is this from Dan. Dan's a friend of the show, and he's done a really cool job of being in the know and being, able to talk on these subjects. And so it is a $200 million seed round at $1 billion FDV, but it's not exactly. And here's why. Basically, Flying Tulip is building a full stack DeFi exchange, but the way that this works is that if you invest, you actually put your stablecoins, ETH, or other assets into the protocol treasury. There's no lockups or anything, but basically you get a option to sell and get your principal back whenever. So basically, if the token goes to 0, you can get your money back. If it goes 100x and you try to get your money back before, you miss out. So basically, what's happening is there is literally a option to like get out at any rate, anytime, and get your capital back. And so Dan argues that the mechanics are deflationary from day one, right? And yeah, I mean, I think that this is an interesting phenomenon. This is probably the most insane part of all of this. Take a second just to read that. Basically, the team gets no token allocation. They only make money if they actually create a product that makes money. Like, this is the revenue meta in a nutshell right now. And Dan is spot on. Like, this is just going to keep happening. And this is scary. Like, if I'm a protocol with no real product market fit revenue, I'm terrified right now. Look, I think the game is still going to be going for a while. The VCs will still be able to make money on products that don't have real PMF. But I'm telling you guys, this type of stuff it's clear where the trend is going. And like, why don't I just give you the next example of where the trend is going? Yield Basis comes on and goes, absolutely smashes the crowd sale. They have 87 million. And then I tweeted it out. They hit 150 million, but it actually hit $194 million in USDC deposited for the sale. Are you kidding me? Like, this is like, the trend is so clear, guys. And we have Michael on tomorrow, so strap in. That's going to be a banger. But like, this is so clear as to where this market is going for capital formation. Like, the market is going towards more fair, experimental ICO / crowd sale style capital formation. And there's no way around it. It is going to happen, and it's happening. And so thankfully for the regulatory environment that we're in is better. It's great, but it's happening. And so I think it will continue to happen. So yeah, I mean, oh, here we go. It looks like EigenLayer launched.
And you have no idea why. Moved $50 million, and you have no idea why. There is no way to verify its logs or prove it used
Pulp
the correct
Fiction,
data.
Hangover.
There is no way to verify what just happened.
If somebody used a nuclear weapon, it's verifiable. AI, when used, may not be verifiable.
Wow.
When it's not verifiable, then you reduce your trust.
We prove how we work. AI does not.
Yes, I love that movie. Yes.
If we can't prove it, should we trust it?
You realize you're renting your brain.
It all remains a mystery. Every trade, every choice, every thought, simply unprovable until now. Introducing EigenAI and EigenCompute. See the prompt, verify the logs, check the model, prove the result.
Build really powerful, expressive crypto apps
My boy.
with verifiable agents. Make smart contracts smarter with AI.
Stop wondering if your AI is right, because there's never been a better time to trust AI. With EigenAI and EigenCompute, AI finally gets its verification layer.
Wow. I'm saying that crypto launch videos are hitting Silicon Valley level. EigenLayer knows this. Obviously, I'm sure they've looked at Roy Lee's Cluely stuff. Maybe not the best example, but that was a banger. Wow. Fire. EigenAI and EigenCompute. Wow. So essentially, all of this is around model, like this open source AI. And if you guys have been watching our AI Super Cycle show with Nir, we just posted a banger with 𝗵𝗏 Mostek from Intelligent Internet, ex-Ability AI founder. It's on our YouTube. It's flying in views. People are loving it. Crazy video. And EigenCloud's attacking the same thing. It's basically just like verifiable LLM inferences, deterministic APIs, untampered prompts. I call them organic. Some could call them virgins. EigenCompute with TEEs. So it looks like Eigen is just fully AI pivoted now. Like their full direction is like, our technology is best matched for AI, and like, here's our future. So they've got EigenCloud, EigenAI, and EigenCompute. Wow, that's pretty sick. That was an amazing video. I'm gonna play back the top part there, or just the end here. This thing was insane.
Smart contracts smarter with AI.
Stop wondering if your AI is right, because there's never been a better time to trust AI. With EigenAI and EigenCompute, AI finally gets its verification layer.
Wow, one more time.
Prove the result.
Build really powerful, expressive crypto apps with verifiable agents. Make smart contracts smarter with AI.
Stop wondering if your AI is right, because there's never been a better time to trust AI. With EigenAI and EigenCompute, AI finally gets its verification layer.
Banger. I think we got last minute confirmation that Sriram's going to join the stream. So we're going to get him on. And yeah, that'll be crazy. Oh my gosh. People are trolling Andre so hard. Wow, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Wow. Okay, look, check this out. Bridge launched open issuance, a new product aimed to help every company launch its own stablecoin. Oh my God. Guys, I want to talk about Laura Shin. She has announced a pump fund coin, and she got absolutely slaughtered for it. And I don't think it's fair. So I would like to just kind of think about how people are treating Laura and maybe give us a bit of a, I think people in media in crypto get such a bad rap and people hate on us so much. And Thread Guy had a whole thing about this with Luca Nets when Luca was on. People in crypto just destroy people in crypto media. Like, it is not easy being in media in crypto and managing it all. Like, it is a total hard job, and people absolutely just go to the end of their wits' end to make them freaking like just angry. Like they just get angry at people in media. And so look, Laura is just testing some stuff out, guys. Like, I'm not saying that I'm going to launch a pump fund coin. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it, though. Like, I would be lying if I said I have not thought about launching a pump fund coin. New Type, what is Dan's Twitter? Peep the video from 𝘗𝘬𝘪. What's up, New Type? Good to see you, bruh. Yeah, what is Dan's Twitter? Who's Dan? I don't know who Dan is, bro. And peep the video from 𝘗𝘬𝘪. All right, I can find that video. I'm not sure what that is, though. Trade to win. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, I have my eyes in a couple of yachts. Sell some Bitcoin. Maybe just a little.
Yo, this is so fire already.
Let's see what's going on.
Round one, fight!
Bro, this is crazy.
Come on! Come on!
Oh my God.
𝘱𝘭.
Oh my God.
Hey, you good? Who is this guy?
Oh my God, this is crazy.
Hey, wake up. Next trade's live.
정부가 암호화폐 준비금을 만든다고 했습니다.
Round two, fight!
All in.
Oh my God, this is ridiculous.
All in. Full house. Straight flush. Congratulations.
Oh, no. He's gonna run away with all the girls at the end of the night to the freaking villa. Oh my God, that might have been one of the best videos I've ever seen for a product announcement. That might have been one of the best videos I've ever seen for a product announcement. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. I've never seen, wow. Holy. That was insane. Wow. That was one of the craziest video product announcements I've ever seen in my life. And that was insane. Whoa. That app looks insane. It looked like he was trading in a virtual screen. And then he was in like some AR, VR headset on his computer, but he was playing poker from his, that was insane. Wow. All right. Well, we're going to get 𝘱𝘁RAM up on a special last minute appearance. Gotta love it. He is calling in from Token, and I'm stoked that he is able to join us because I just did a segment reacting to the launch video, and I also thought the launch video was awesome. So we're definitely going to clip that. And I watched the whole video and it was sweet. And so we're just going to get him up in a sec here and talk about their news today. I'm just getting things set up. We'll have the team get it back in the back. And 𝘱𝘁RAM is up, man. So 𝘱𝘁RAM, welcome to the show. And thanks for calling in from Singapore. I know it's late over there.
Hey, Andy. Really excited to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, good, man. Good. Well, I just watched the video, so I am in the know. So EigenCloud is now has announced EigenCompute, EigenAI, two key parts to this broader, verifiable, credible, commitment-based AI system that you've seemed to pioneered somewhere in the brain up there over the last 5 years. It's just slowly starting to come out. 𝘱𝘁RAM, maybe you could unpack this a bit. What is the, what was the kind of lore behind this kind of dual wielded product announcement? And, why is this important? How did this kind of come about? Let's just start with the story first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe I start with our rebrand to EigenCloud, just to remind the audience. So we did this announcement of, hey, we have this umbrella brand called EigenCloud. The way you think about it is like when you think of a crypto, right? We think of crypto's evolution as you have Bitcoin, right? Verifiable money, right? But runs on a $5 hardware, like you can run it on a Raspberry Pi. Ethereum, this verifiable computer on which all the DeFi verifiable finance took off, we think of it as it can run on a $500 computer. And then you look at Solana, the L2s, Mega, things like that. They basically bumped it up to a $10,000 server, right? Like a Raspberry Pi to like a laptop to a server. But I think when I got into crypto, I used to say, oh, you can build an Uber on chain. You can build like a recommendation engine, with a social network on chain. You can build a new OpenAI on chain. And, it just turns out those are not really possible with a $10,000 server. You need much, much more compute. You need cloud scale compute. So that's why we read what is enough to scale, crypto and verifiable compute to this kind of scale. So that's kind of like the main question for which EigenCloud is the answer. And so when you think about the cloud, right, what is the base layer of the cloud, right? So we talk about base layer in crypto with L1s and L2s. The base layer of a cloud is a data center, right? So Amazon or Google, they run a big data center, like, hundreds of megawatts. And that's the base layer of the cloud. The base layer of EigenCloud, but that is centralized, non-verifiable. The base layer of EigenCloud is EigenLayer. EigenLayer allows anybody to stake and operate and like keep these computations ongoing. And that's the base layer of EigenCloud. It's decentralized, verifiable, as opposed to centralized, opaque. So a cloud like Amazon or Google is not just made of data center. It's not like just like a rack of servers and then that's the cloud. It's made of these data centers and services built on top. Primarily like storage, compute, and AI are the three main services that like an AWS will have, right? S3 for storage, EC2 for compute, Bedrock for AI. So that's it. That's what EigenCloud is. So we have the base layer, EigenLayer. We have EigenDA, which is the data layer of Eigen. And we have EigenCompute and EigenAI were the two big missing pieces that we just announced. But that's how we think of the whole picture. That's why we rebranded to EigenCloud. So each of these new things don't seem like, oh, why is a restaking protocol doing AI, or a restaking protocol is doing, some compute and all this stuff. It's a crypto cloud. So that's what we want people to remember us for. And so in a cloud, AI is the most important service. In a crypto cloud, obviously, that's the most important service. So that's what's happening. EigenAI and Compute just launched today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very clear that the market has, there have been players in the restaking landscape, quote unquote, that have evolved and have, kind of used the core idea to then now grow into new parts. And those have kind of just like stuck in it. And there's a clear discrepancy in where like value is and attention is going to. Like 𝘰𝘪𝘴 is a great example, where they're now doing this whole neobank thing, this entire credit card system, and that is all built using EigenLayer's technology with their WE-ETH product or ETH product, stake ETH product. But they've now made ways of, extrapolating that to actually create like a neobank. In EigenLayer's case, now EigenCloud is like this foundational cloud layer, as you've described, with these kind of services stacked up on top. It's kind of like a cake, if you will. There's different layers to the cake. So EigenCompute and EigenAI have just added a new layer to the cake. Maybe talk us through each one individually and why they're compatible with each other, and kind of what this brings to your product suite.
Yeah, absolutely. So EigenCompute, when I want to write a program, I just want to write an arbitrary software, like I want to write a Java program or like some complex database, all these things. And then I package it into a Docker container. And normally you ship it to a regular cloud to go and run it. Instead, you write a program. Instead of writing this program, normally when you're doing on-chain development, you have to write it in a smart contract, and you're constrained by the constraints of the smart contract. Instead, you can write in any language of your choice, and then say, oh, I need like an instance which is this big, right? So normally when you're running on a chain, you're constrained by the nodes that's available on that chain, right? So there's a homogeneous set of nodes. Say, no, I need this XL instance that needs to run this. It needs 128 gigabytes of memory, whatever your constraints are. You specify that. You just send it to EigenCloud, EigenCompute. What it does is it takes your like container, executes it off chain, and brings the results back on chain. So it's a container with smart contract grade security. Okay, so that's our kind of like end vision. And you ask like, okay, you're running the container somewhere. Is it like a centralized cloud? What is this thing? And so the answer is the way we get, so one of the things with a smart contract is it's unstoppable, right? It's run forever. So as long as there is gas fee being paid, the smart contract lives on forever. How do you get a similar property with like EigenCompute? Anybody can stake and run the EigenCompute node. Okay, so I download and then I'm staking and then I'm running the EigenCompute node. And if I'm running the EigenCompute node, I also have to write the snapshot of the state, periodically into EigenDA. So you just, store it in EigenDA. EigenDA is this decentralized network, which we built. EigenDA is the fastest DA network in crypto. So there's a lot of bandwidth. You can accommodate, I think, maybe now like 15 Solanas inside EigenDA, right? And we're scaling this more. So we will be at thousands of Solanas someday. So you take the this container, and then like the node runs it, writes a snapshot to EigenDA, and then it can go and trigger actions on any chain. So even though EigenLayer contracts are built on top of Ethereum, the utility of the EigenCloud service, we want to be prevalent in all of crypto, right? So whether you're on Base or Arbitrum or World or eventually, Avalanche or Solana or Mega, Monad or wherever, right? So we want it to be universal. It's going to take stages to get to all of that. But so that's the EigenCompute. It executes off chain and then brings the results on chain. So the obvious question is, whoever is executing it, what if they are malicious or like they don't do their job right? So first, they get slashed, so they lose their stake. And then second, anybody else can come and stake and continue the computation. So it's not like, oh, they are bad and the whole system dies. So anybody else can come and stake and continue the computation. But to continue the computation, they need the data because, where do I start, right? To say like, oh, go continue that agent's computation. You don't have that agent's computation. So you download the data from EigenDA and then continue on. So this is the core functionality of EigenCompute. And when we said like this is a mechanism to maintain the property that the system runs on forever. So as long as there is money, then somebody will have the incentive to show up and then keep continuing the system on. So then you have the other property that you need, which is safety or correctness. How do you assure that the program is executed safely? And here you have many different options, right? So you could have a ZK proof, right, which is the most rigid version, but it's also very expensive. So creating a ZK proof may be like 10,000 to 100,000 times more expensive than just running a computation. So imagine you're playing a massively multiplayer game, right? It may cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to just run the computation. To do a proof, it may cost you hundreds of millions of dollars. So nobody's going to do a ZK proof for those things. But you may want to do a crypto economic proof where you say, oh, there's staking and slashing. And the earlier thing I said is staking and slashing for liveness, but there could also be staking and slashing for safety. Okay, you didn't run the computation correctly. If it's verifiable, you'll lose your stake. Or there could be like, I'm running inside an encrypted, hardware encrypted enclave, a TEE, and then that's how I get verifiability. The vision of eigencompute is to support all of these. These are just modalities, right? So it's a stack that runs off-chain compute. And on-chain is going to bring the results verifiably. You can choose the grade of verifiability. Obviously, there's a cost to the different grades, and you can choose what you want. There's also like some constraints of programmability, right? If you want to write something where you want to use crypto economic slashing, then it should be verifiable, observable that you ran the computation correctly. You need some level of determinism. You run the program again, you should get the same answer. So there are some constraints, whereas if you just want to slam it inside a TEE, you don't need those constraints. You may get additional privacy and other things. So you get some trade-offs, and like eigencompute wants to support all of these things. On day one, it's built with TEE grade safety. So that's the day one launch. Eigencompute, run computation off-chain, bring the results on-chain. And you have all these different ways in which to do it. But the abstraction that you can think of you're going to write a smart contract, but you can write it in any language. It's running off-chain, but it's kind of like bringing the results back on-chain. I think this is a big upgrade to crypto, just this one thing. Many things that were simply impossible before become very easy to do in this method. Like one example is gaming, right? I had this slide where I say like, 𝘱𝘭𝘷𝘦𝘴𝘵, like he had this World of Warcraft spell that he had and then got nerfed and he was pretty pissed. And he said, okay, I'm going to start Ethereum. Right? So semi-urban legend, but it's useful.
Yeah.
And, a lot of crypto gaming was kind of like built around this thing. Oh, you should put your assets on chain. So then you really own it, right? And all of these things. But I think, if you just put an asset on chain, but the game itself is running off-chain by a centralized opaque party, even if you own like that spell as an NFT, I can always say, those NFTs are not going to be respected inside the game. So having game execution be run non-verifiably, but game assets being verifiable and on-chain doesn't really give you anything. I mean, it's okay, you can do secondary trades, that kind of thing. But even inside of most games, you have like, the ability to trade assets. So, okay, so that's the one example. The other one, the other phase, I think, of crypto gaming was, hey, I'm going to just build the game on-chain, right? Like Dark Forest or something where like the entire game logic's on-chain. But that is very constrained. Like barely, a few games can be rich enough to build that and have a good enough user experience. But what we're saying is, I think the third phase of crypto gaming, where you're going to have assets on-chain and you can run extremely complex, massive multiplayer like online games because it's just running on the cloud, right? So you just throw your logic there and then it executes this massively multiplayer game. And it is forced to follow the rules that are already encoded, which means if you have that NFT, which shows that spell in World of Warcraft, it is going to be respected because the code that's running automatically reads it and respects it. So finally, Vitalik can stop. Right.
And so I start to see how this this idea of a verifiable off-chain environment, which reminds me of kind of like the coprocessor kind of concept, right? With certain modalities that have for specific use cases. So for highly financialized use cases of very private information, there's a certain modality that is able to adapt to that. And then something like a more fast-paced gaming environment where maybe there's a requirement for the privacy of your next move is important, but for all other intents and purposes, they just want the speed and the verifiability consistently. There's another kind of modality here that Compute can provide. And then if you just think about that spectrum being both sides of the spectrum, then anything in between. And so that is happening. That is Compute. Then we've got this kind of corollary situation here where we're also living in this black box closed source AI environment, this uncertainty as to where data is going when you input it as prompts, this uncertainty as to what models you're using and what they're being trained on. And so I can start to kind of at least infer as to where the Eigen AI comes in terms of, okay, if we know that a lot of the things that are going to happen in the world, whether they're on-chain or not, are likely going to have some sort of agentic influence, then the same concept that we just applied to the verifiability of off-chain of events and verifying them on-chain and being able to use that on-chain, well, we need to do the same thing for AI. And then we need to do the same thing for bringing those AI and their capabilities and their models and open sourcing them and bringing those on-chain as well. So I can see a parallel here starting to be drawn, but maybe you could illuminate this a bit better, kind of draw that parallel for Eigen AI as a nice kind of counterforce, if you will, to Eigen Compute.
Yeah. So when you think about, as AI systems move into more central position in our society and our life, right? Eric Schmidt, the former Google CEO, was mentioning in a podcast that imagine your kid is talking to an AI agent and, on a daily basis. What you do is you have already, vetted this agent and seems like a reasonable one. Okay, it has reasonable guardrails. I'm going to give it to my kid and then let my kid talk to it. Over time, what can happen and what is sure to happen is that the agent that you're dealing with is not the same as the agent that's going to be 2 weeks from now, from 1 month from now to 2 years from now. So there's a drift, right? Continuous drift of the model, and it's keeping on getting changed. ChatGPT went from like a normal mode to a sycophant mode, in the middle, and then people got plenty pissed at it, and some people are losing their minds.
Yeah, because it's starting to be deceitful and deceptive, and these are starting to happen with the sophistication of these models.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just like social media was optimized for virality of content, Sam Altman's going to optimize ChatGPT for retention and
and there's ads coming in and
praise and who is going to ride along with your delusion so those agents are going to be more.
Sorry, yeah, we had Emad from zkVerify AI. I know you know him well, and I don't want to interrupt, but he said there's a revenue to evil curve that all the OpenAI, Anthropic and tech giants are on, and it's kind of like, and this is my example, not his, but the hot crazy scale, which is kind of it is what it is, but AI is kind of on a revenue evil scale, and there's an entire Y and X axis of a graph happening here, and I think this is kind of what you're somewhat alluding to.
Absolutely. So now the question is, if there was a revenue evil curve, right? So how do we actually go from, to quote Chris Dixon, how do we go from don't be evil to can't be evil, right? That's the question that's I think what crypto is trying to answer for all of us. And so how do you make AI can't go evil? So there are various levels, but one level is, I guarantee to you that this model executed and is giving you your inference results. It's this. What do I mean by this model? I specify the entire weights of the whole whatever LLM. Say, this is 0.0011357, whatever. This entire matrix of weights. And then I pre-commit to it, and I say I can prove to you whenever you send me a query, it went through this particular LLM and you got a result. So And as you can see, to prove to you this claim, firstly requires a determinism that if you give me a same query, I should be able to give you the same answer. Otherwise, how do I prove that it's the same thing, that's the right thing that is actually doing this? And it turns out determinism is not an easy problem in AI. Like, in normal experience suggests every time you ask an AI a different question, it gives you a different answer. But this is due to a random seed that goes with it. Every time you ask a question, it generates a random seed and then does it. But if you control for this random seed and say, every time I give you the same seed, you will still not get the same answer. It's because there's all kinds of things inside the execution of this, the model and the model backend, the cache and the tensor core libraries, all these things have to be controlled very tightly to get deterministic results. And that's what we've done. Is with EigenAI, you get exact determinism. So you run the model with this seed, you get exactly the same answer, bit by bit, right? And so that is a really cool property because you can use that to then build, because that's deterministic inference. You can use that to build verifiable inference, because if I did something and then, I put up my money and then I ran it wrongly, you can slash me and so on. So I think that is the heart of EigenAI, is deterministic and therefore verifiable inference. This, I think, what is the difference between compute and this? There are two differences. Compute usually runs on CPU, right? And AI is running on GPUs. That's one thing. The second is the determinism problem that I just laid out, that AI has this deterministic thing. The third one is when you deploy a compute instance, you're getting an entire node operator just for yourself. So I've allocated a compute node just for you for doing your app. But if you're using AI, many apps can share the same AI engine. So I have an AI engine which can inference engine where you can ask questions and you'll get answers. And if there are 10,000 apps, each app using inference, rarely they can all share common resources through EigenAI. So that's the core thing in EigenAI. You can do an execution and then an inference call, and then the inference result comes back verifiably on chain.
Yeah.
So same primitive.
And so, Shriram, is this going to exist in an EigenAI chat interface? Because we've been working with Near for the last month or two, been kind of experimenting with one of their private chat betas, which if you haven't seen that, hit up Ilya, he'll definitely show you. And it verifiably encrypts your data. And their big thing is privacy, but it's kind of around a similar vein. What is the actual product that I'll be able to use? Is it going to be like an Eigen ChatGPT type wrapper thing with these primitives? How is that going to happen?
Okay, great question. We can easily build, we have internally fun wrapper, but the main usage that we envision is a replacement for an OpenAI API. So instead of using the ChatGPT API, which is what developers use in the back, you can just slam in the EigenAI API, and then you get verifiable queries. You can slam it into like a very standard chat interface and use it. But we don't think that's the right use case, because our focus is on verifiable inference, right, as opposed to private inference, which is another use case that we'll support over time. But for verifiable inference, I think in crypto, people hadn't quite found out what is a good use case for why would somebody want verifiability, because there's always a cost to having verifiability, right? A chat interface, it's verifiable. Yeah, I know if I'm getting good results. I don't need like a chat interface to have verifiable inference. But imagine I slam a trading agent with inference. So it's an agent that's going to do trades on your behalf, and that needs an intelligence and an inference. And if that inference is corrupted or like something goes wrong, because you're now like making it run in an automated execution loop where go like, hey, think carefully about which token you want to buy and sell and all that, and then like it goes and just does it by itself, that better be verifiable, because otherwise you're going to get drugged, right? So it's important for us to understand where verifiability has a premium, right? It's not just, ChatGPT is not clear, at least for privacy, it could be a very good use case, right? I want to ask a question where like nobody else knows one.
Yes.
But here, because verifiable. Okay, so what other things are, so inference is primarily an API, like you could swap out an OpenAI API to an EigenAI API just like that, and you can bring the results on chain. But we think the superpower of the Eigen stack shows up when you combine these pieces: EigenDA, EigenCompute, EigenAI, all these things. And think of an AI agent, right? What's an agent? An agent is like a computation, a unit of computation running, and then it calls inference, and it calls other tools, and then it has its own memory, right? So you need EigenCompute, EigenAI, EigenDA, all of these pieces to work together to actually create powerful, verifiable agents. So that's a category where, just any one of these pieces by itself is not enough. You need the union of all these pieces to actually make it really interesting. And again, the same question, which is, I think, in my view, I think more than the fact that we are doing verifiable inference or compute, I think what we've done is to decode when is there a premium for verifiability, and then doubling down on those types of use cases. A trading agent is a good example. It's obvious. Okay, if it's a trading agent, you don't want to just put money onto something. In fact, I think there's a lot of things. Sorry?
No, I was just saying, you're not going to put your hands up and be like, good luck, thanks, trade my money with unknown parameters, obviously, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And, this is not just an inside crypto thing. So, we think, maybe there's a last cycle, AI agent meta, and then it just fell off because things were not yet ready, right? And I think you can think of this as the next round where, you can bring an ELIZA agent, you can bring other agents, and then make them verify, actually have a lot of TVL and value kind of go through it. But even more broadly, agentic finance is a big thing that's going to take over all kinds of other places, right? And I think existing frameworks without verifiability don't satisfy all the properties. Like, for example, if Grok offered a fully automated trading agent, they are taking significant liability, right? Imagine you
like legal liability.
Imagine you let your Grok go trade stuff for you, and Grok ends up buying a bunch of Dogecoin for you, and Doge goes down in price. You may be an afflicted party in this Elon's game, and it's a real issue because.
I hear you.
And so this is, I think, one of the reasons why ChatGPT and Grok have not yet gone all automated trading execution and so on, because this is immediate liability center, right?
Yeah.
It could be GameStop, it could be Dogecoin, it could be a DAT treasury. Who knows how you're going to get rugged? So that's, whereas what we are saying is the guarantee that the system gives the user is not that the agent is good or bad or better or anything. It just tells you this agent code trades your money and gives you that specific information. Exactly like Ethereum, right? Ethereum doesn't tell you whether the eigenlayer smart contract is good or bad. It tells you your money is with this piece of code, right? And so that's exactly the same guarantee we want to give with verifiable trading agents. You think of this we think of formally as a runtime, a verifiable runtime for these agents. And so that's something that we're super excited about, because it's not just a utility for inside crypto. It is a massive utility for a Robinhood, for for a Grok, for any of these things to say, hey, it's not me, it's those things that are running, and those, you choose your code, and it's just going to run exactly as stated. So that's one really interesting thing in putting these pieces together. But our bet is putting these pieces together is going to let you do all kinds of things which are transformative to the foundations of crypto. So I think that's what I'm excited about.
Good. Shriram, just I know it's late over there, and I want to let you get some rest. Just curious, we've got these two products announced. Where are they at in their development right now? And then what does the road to the end of the year look like for EigenCompute and EigenAI? Maybe just give us a little bit of insight as to what the
Absolutely.
development looks like.
I think, well, the first thing I'll start with, I'm enormously proud of our engineering team for like shipping this mainnet alpha at such record time. The eigenlayer white paper to the eigenlayer like fully shipped was 3 years, right? EigenCloud white paper to like EigenCloud V1, 2 months. It's insane. Our development velocity has gone up 10x to actually be able to do this. Having said that, EigenCloud's compute and AI is mainnet alpha. So it is a very limited set of features, right? So our each one of these EigenCompute, EigenAI has lots and lots of features that will get added in terms of security, in terms of availability, in terms of SLA. All of these things are restricted initially. So for example, to get access to EigenCompute, you need to get whitelisted. So it's not general availability. It is, but you can fill a form and then like you'll get provisioned. So that's, the stage of EigenCompute. It's running on TEE. And, TEE attestations are verifiable, but not on-chain. And so like there is all these like asterisks that go with the V1 of this system. And so the reason we felt comfortable in launching this is unlike, a change to the eigenlayer contracts, which is going to drive $20 billion of value. Some application builder wants to actually use, EigenCompute or EigenAI today when their value is very low and they grow with us, right? Today when the value is low, it's fine. Like, just go use it and then like get users and iron out the developer experience. This is one of our big shift from security first to developer first or user experience first, because we want to nail the experience of, if I'm a developer, I'm building a new product. This is a new deployment pattern where you're writing a piece of code on chain, just the token logic is written on chain. And then the remaining logic is written in these containers and stuff. So new pattern. So we need new kinds of developer experience for this. But that's where the stage is. It's mainly to get our developer experience tested, get new people thinking about this new application patterns. So same thing with EigenAI. It is built on deterministic inference, but the slashing for EigenAI is not yet live. So again, that'll be a phased release. We'll see some of these go live by the end of Q4. And again, one of the things we want to do is, as real people deploy real use cases on top of these two things, we'll know which features need to be prioritized. And so we want to take that feedback to actually go and nail those first.
Beautiful. And I would expect that mainnet alpha rolls all the way into the end of the year, and that into Q1 next year, we should be able to see some of those feature set upgrades really live in production.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Zk:Verify, thank you for your time. Enjoy the week in Singapore. Say hi to Robbie if you see him. And yeah, man, thanks for coming on, and congratulations on this next step. Look forward to seeing the evolution and circling back in a couple months and chatting again.
Thank you so much, Andy. Always a pleasure to be on the Rollup.
All right, buddy. Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, guys. That was a last-minute appearance. I'm glad that we made it happen, though. Pretty good stuff. I mean, Zk:Verify is just a deep thinker that kind of has a really, really way with his words and thinking about applications, runtimes, AI, compute, the kind of entire pipeline of infrastructure for AI and crypto. So, if I'm looking at the AI crypto category right now, it's hard to say that EigenLayer is not leading. And I think I just want to put that out there. There are some leading teams in the space, and I think it's going to get more and more competitive. But I think EigenCloud is going to be one of the leaders, if not already. And so just keep that in mind, guys. Kind of went from like this restaking ETH aligned thing to now Zk:Verify's talking about we're going to deploy all of our stuff on any chain. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, that sounds pretty bullish. I think that sounds like a good idea. So I'm just glad to hear that these guys are shipping fast. I think that was the pushback from the market for them, was like, oh, they don't have anything shipped. EigenDA is still in production. It doesn't work, and this and that, and there's no AV. So I think like they're shipping now. I think that the market's going to realize that now it's just about the demand side. Like they got the supply side. Now it's about the demand side. So guys, awesome stream today. See you guys tomorrow, and peace out. Thanks for your time.